Wait, hold on. I'm a little giggly, okay? So let me just get the...
This is what makes it take forever. You just gotta go through it.
I know. No, but I got this giggly thing going on, okay? So let me just get the giggles out of the way, so...
Hi, and welcome back to the Cheaters Ring Behind the Scenes series. I'm Gray, the writer and director, and today we have our colorists, also AC, also Camop, also DJI Ronin operator, Jorge Montoya, who's going to bring us through a couple of the scenes in Cheaters Ring that we colored through DaVinci.
Coloring this film was a bit of a challenge because we did 2 passes of it, one in Lumetri and one in DaVinci. The Lumetri cut was done for an earlier release of the film. Did it in one day, like all day. I think we finished like at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning.
Full day.
Yeah, and then to take full control of the 4K, we did it in DaVinci. The control that you have in DaVinci is amazing. You have a qualifying tool. That way you could pick out specific things, plus all the LUTs that come with it. It really takes advantage of that S-Log 2 or 3 that you filmed in.
We filmed S-Log 3.
It takes full control of it, and there are some amazing things that you could do in DaVinci Resolve that other coloring apps don't give you. We're going to go over the coloring process for some of the scenes, some of the shots from Cheaters Ring, just to show you what me and Chris went through and kind of what the process, what the mentality was going into this. So we're just going to start going over the color grading and correction process for Cheaters Ring. Now this is just kind of a brief overlook as to what me and Chris did. So yeah, should be pretty cool. So the film was shot in RAW. That means that it was shot with the flattest profile possible. And a lot of films do this because they retain more detail, more color, or you can manipulate the image even more. So this is kind of the original for this particular shot. And as you can see, it's just flat all over, and you still have some color, but it's not really accentuated. So that's where the color correction, color grading process comes in. So we're gonna start by using the LUT. Now, LUT stands for lookup table. And what a LUT does is that it tells the image, okay, everything of this color, I want it to look like this. So if you have a blue, but you don't want that blue, you want a different shade of blue, you can say, okay, anytime you see this particular blue, I want this shade. It does that with various colors in the spectrum. And there are LUTs that we use now to kind of create like a starting point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click this node. And DaVinci uses nodes to add your layers on top of each other. So I'm gonna create this node. I'm gonna go to 3D LUT. I'm gonna go to the Sony because we shot this on the Sony F55. We're gonna go to S-Log 3 to Rec 709, type A. And as you can see, we're already getting a great image. Now this is a normalized look. Now we're gonna pull up our scopes and we're gonna keep correcting it. So these are our scopes. On the left we have the RGB parade, which tells you the breakdown of everything that's red, green, and blue, because these different colors are used in variation to create our color spectrum. And then on the right we have our luminance, or our waveform, and that tells you the brightness, how dark a certain part of the image is. And to read it, it basically just goes from left to right. So just think of this image on top of here, and this tells you the complete layout. So for example, right over here where it's super high, that means that those things are the highest, brightest points in the image. So right over here, where the light is hitting this wall, you can see it. In the middle of the frame, you get this kind of dark hallway, and there you go. And that's kind of how you read the image. And as you can see, it's already well balanced. When you're correcting an image, you want to get the reds, the greens, and the blues all in the same place. But for the most part, they're already there. So that's pretty much it for color correction. But now we come into the grading part. This is where we make the look of the film, the colors of the film all match together. We're gonna create a new node. And in this scene, we were inspired by Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, and the kind of orange, yellow kind of look to the entire film. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna come in, I'm gonna start playing with my my lifts, my gammas, and my gains, my shadows, my mid-tones, and my highlights. and this offset just affects the entire image altogether. So on my gains and my highlights, I'm gonna move them towards that spectrum a little bit. And now when you're making these corrections, you wanna make them just a little bit. You don't wanna overdo it. So we're already getting there. I'm gonna create a new node. I'm gonna pick my dropper. I'm gonna click on these shadows. As you can see, it's already picked out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my curves. I'm gonna go to the hue versus, or luminance versus saturation. I'm gonna say everything that's at this point in darkness, I want it lowered. So I'm just gonna go down and remove that color, that little tint that I added earlier from the shadows. And so it looks pitch black. So you could see just a little bit. Now it looks black. And the rest of the image remains kind of with its orange kind of tint. Lastly, I'm just gonna add a little blur radius for the teardropper. And there you go. Nothing too crazy, but just to accentuate the day, the part of the day. So this is the after, and here's the before. So for the next shot, we're gonna go over this scene where Johnny is passing homework to one of his fellow students, and it's back and forth. So here's the original. This is what it looks like. Now let's add our LUT. So here's with the LUT, and again, this is that normalized look. So for the other part of this image, we're just gonna fix the sky, because as you can see from our waveforms, that this sky is overblown completely, right? But thankfully, because we shot this on the F55, it still retains some of that detail. So I'm gonna show you how to get that detail back. So I'm gonna create a new node. I'm gonna pull up my eyedropper, and we're gonna select the sky. And if we can see from our node, this is everything that it's picking up, right? But we don't really want to mess too much with all of the other stuff. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna blur it out just from the get-go. I'm gonna decrease the range of lumens that I want picked up, and from there I'm just gonna bring it down. Just bring it down using the highlight, even mess with the curves just a little bit, just to bring it back, because it was way too spicy before. And as we could just see, if I delete this real quick, that's where it was. That's where we're bringing that. So it really keeps this overcast feeling. So now it's just about bringing the entire image to the final kind of look. So just gonna really add some saturation. We'd add some noise reduction to this image, because there is a little bit of noise. Keep maybe some of the contrast there. I'm gonna pull up my scopes again, and there you go. All right, so if you've seen the other behind the scenes videos, which if you haven't, I definitely recommend checking it out, because you'll see all the problems that we went through. It was a long shoot, and a couple of the scenes were reshot at later days. So we shot this scene on one of the beginning days of the shoot, I believe. Another shot, like the one right next to it in the final cut, was filmed on a separate day. And as you can see, two very different looks, right? And so now it's our job to really make these scenes match and flow together, so the audience doesn't recognize this difference. So I'm gonna go over here again, add in my 3D LUT to get a normalized look. And so I'm gonna make this like my reference point, because this is more of the look that we want to do. Again, we're referencing Wolf of Wall Street, so we want that orange kind of red look. So this is my image. So the image that I'm really gonna spend all my time with is on this one, because this is the one that needs to be heavily corrected. So I'm gonna add my 3D LUT. So I'm pull up my scope. So this is when I was talking about using your reds and your greens and your blues, this is where you use it. So I'm gonna go here, unlock these curves, and then I'm just gonna go in my reds and bring it up, bring it all up. Then I'm gonna go to my blues, bring it down, right? Just bring it down a little bit. Maybe my greens, a little bit, there you go. And that's more of a normalized look. There is a little bit of blue extra, but that's okay. This is, you know, where it might be from her jacket, so we're already getting there. All right, so this is a corrected image as from before. So before, after. Now it's looking pretty good, but it still needs work. So the other one has like a red tonal kind of thing. So I'm gonna create a new node and we're gonna fix that. So I'm gonna go here in my highlights and start adding that red kind of thing, that yellow, maybe that yellow highlight. Gonna pick out her skin and gonna bring that back just a little bit, just so her skin isn't as yellow like in the background and stuff. And we're getting pretty close. We're getting pretty close to this one, and all we really did to this one was the Rec 709 look. So I still have to go in and kind of lift her skin tones up, you know, reduce the contrast a little bit. And actually I could add the contrast in here. There you go. Now, the only thing really needed, the only thing that we really need for this shot now is to darken the background, because in the other shot, the background is a little dark. And I could lift this up right here, but we want that kind of darker background. So we're gonna teardrop this red background. There you go. So now it's just the red brick. That as well. So now we're just getting a lot of the brick, and now let's just keep going. Let's lower this. And there you go. We're already getting darker background. All right, for this last scene, we're gonna look at two shots in the same scene, and this is in the dean's office. And this is right after he was caught, so it's definitely late into the sunset kind of look. And we're gonna talk about these two shots, one with the dean and the reverse on the kids. So again, starting from the get-go, we're just gonna go with the LUT, and there you go. That's our kind of normalized look. Now it's about correcting it even more. And the thing about this shot is that it is dark. So we're gonna go in here and we're just gonna lift the image up. We're just gonna lift it up. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of contrast, nothing too crazy though, because the image is already contrasting. I'm gonna add a little saturation just to keep some of the vibrancy. And from here we would just add a little bit of noise reduction. But overall it's looking pretty good. We could kind of go in and just enhance it even more, but really it's already looks good. Only thing I would really do now is just add the eyedropper, go to a dark part of the image again, and just bring those selections down. That way we get a richer image. And there you go. The shadows are out of the orange kind of tint look that I gave it is out of the shadows, so it's looking more like an actual image. So now we're gonna go on the dean, and it's the same process as before. Let's add the LUT. Let's just do an overall correction of it. So I'll do this image as well. This image is really dark, so let's bring it up. Let's bring up the shadows, midtones, and highlights. And it's a contrasting image, so I mean, we don't need to add contrast. So now let's add that kind of same orange look that we added before. So now the only thing that this image is really missing is a power window, and a power window on him, because the dean is a little dark. So I'm gonna place the power window over him. I'm gonna feather it out. I'm gonna open it. So it's really just on him. There you go. And I'm gonna track him using the built-in DaVinci tracker. I'm just gonna play it forward. And it's just gonna follow him. And the tracker is absolutely amazing. It's gonna stay on him, and it has a 3D effect, so if anything were to move in front of the camera, it would still stay on him. So I'm gonna bring up the luminance on him, because he seems to be a little darker, right? And like, let's say I go all the way up, that's what it would look like. But that's obviously dramatic, so I'm just gonna bring it up just a little bit, not too much in the shadows really. Highlights to bring up his skin, and there you go, just a little bit of more light on his face so we get to see his reaction. And the last thing we would do to this image is just bring in some noise reduction, because that's really all it is. And that was just a quick look at what we did for the Cheaters Ring color correction and grading session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have fun, and I don't know what else to say, so I'm just speaking. See you later.
So that's about it. Thank you so much to all of the cast and crew who put in time and effort and tons of energy into this thing. Secondly, as soon as we knew we were going to do this project, it was known that we were going to do a behind-the-scenes series, and for that, I have to thank Ryan Connolly and the guys at Film Riot for inspiring the whole series and the way it was broken down and structured. So thank you guys for that, and I hope that everyone who's continued with us throughout this journey has learned a little something out of this, as that's kind of the hope and goal. So thank you for watching and sticking through each episode as we figure things out. Other than that, thank you so much for tuning in to Cheaters Ring and its behind the scenes series. I will see you next time.